You moved quickly down the hall, confused and anxious. You had been enjoying the Christmas party your class had thrown when the office had called you down to the front of the school. A handsome young man stood next to the receptionist. He was tall with an easy smile. That smile faltered a bit when he bent down to speak to you. There was an accident. Your daddy's been hurt. Your blood ran cold as the man took you by the shoulder. Now don't you worry, little girl. I'm sure he'll be all right. He wanted you to see him. Sent me here to pick you up. You looked over at the receptionist, a woman you had seen every morning since school started. Her face showed concern, worry, but she motioned for you to follow the clean-cut man. You were Marion Parker, and you would never see your daddy again. William Ed Hickman was the perfect example of what happens when God blinks. A mistake enters the world. For years, scholars would look back on his life and the lives of his family as evidence for the belief that evil was hereditary. Hickman's mother, Eva, suffered from an extreme form of postpartum psychosis. After being convinced to continue having children as it was God's will, each birth caused her to spiral further and further into madness. Ed had been her fourth child. Eva would get up in the night and stand over her husband with knives. When he would leave for work in the morning, she would whisper in his ear that the children would be dead when he came home, that she would stack their bodies up like wood for him to find. After Ed's baby sister was born, his father deserted the family. The family held on through poverty, and Ed excelled in school. He was so bright and filled with not only a passion, but a calling, a divine calling. Hickman believed that the Lord had chosen him to be a preacher, to go out and shepherd lost sheep back to the fold. This youthful desire to do good in the world didn't survive puberty. There were times when young Ed would let the mask of the God-fearing honor student slip. Like many killers before him, Ed enjoyed torturing small animals, cats, dogs, whatever he could find that was smaller than him. One event with a neighborhood cat traumatized a poor girl so badly that she remembered it well into adulthood. As a young man, Ed committed a string of petty crimes, not enough to get in much trouble, until he decided to hold up a drugstore on Christmas Eve, 1926. The store was owned by a man named Clarence Toms, who was tragically caught in the crossfire between Ed and a policeman who happened to be close by. Toms lay dying in the hospital, and the police combed the streets for his attacker. Hickman, having fled unharmed, went into hiding. He got a job as a messenger boy at First National Bank and Trust in Los Angeles, California. Not long after he was hired, he was caught forging checks. This not only resulted in his firing from the bank, but Hickman also ended up in front of a judge. Toms had died in the hospital from the gunshot wound Ed had given him. It would have been a godsend if only someone had recognized him from a sketch or article in the paper, but God sent no angels that day. Hickman wasn't jailed for forging the checks. As the money was so small, the judge ruled it didn't warrant time behind bars. This brush with the law ignited an old spark in Ed. Once out of the courtroom, he was filled with renewed religious zeal. Ed wanted to continue his studies and become a servant of the Lord. But Bible college wasn't cheap. Unfortunately for what was to come, his time working at the bank had given him an idea of just where to get the money. Marion Parker was 12 years old and attended Mount Vernon Junior High with her twin sister. She was the daughter of Perry Parker, a former co-worker of Hickman. Ed had found out while working at the bank that Perry had a sizable savings account and children he loved very much. Ed convinced the secretary to allow him to check out little Marion under the guise that her father had been injured in an accident. Here is where things get nearly unbelievable. Hickman never even gave his name to the secretary. When asked which daughter he was here to pick up, Hickman had been unaware that Marion had a twin sister, yet still, he was allowed to take the child with him and into the back of a stolen blue coupe. Later that night, Perry Parker and his wife received a telegram. It was short and ominous. The writer warned them not to contact the police and wait for further instructions. It was signed George Fox. Perry naturally contacted the police immediately. Later, 2 letters arrived by courier. In the 1920s, mass communication was limited. If you wanted to communicate quickly with someone, a person at that time would be forced to either use a telegraph or employ a private letter service. This service would send someone to deliver the letters at a time the sender chose. Hickman wasted no time with his demands. Perry was to take out $1,500 and keep it on him at all times. No police contact, no press, and only once the money was handed over would he get his daughter back. He signed the letter Faith this time. It ended with,
"Failure to comply with these requests means no one will ever see the girl again except the angels in heaven."
The second letter was from Marion. She begged her daddy to listen and that she wanted to come home. As soon as he read that from his daughter, Perry raced out to get the money. Once back, he retrieved a phone call that informed him to come to a location and come alone. Perry sat there and waited for hours, but no one ever came. Unknown to the desperate father at the time, 2 police officers had tailed him to the drop-off. The next day, December 17th, a series of letters arrived at the Parker house. At first, Ed berated Perry for involving the police, expressed shock that the loving father would condemn his child to death. As the letters continued, Hickman calmed down enough to continue the extortion. He assured Perry that he wasn't dealing with some run-of-the-mill criminal.
"Fox is my name. Very sly, you know. Set no traps. I'll watch for them."
The police agreed to back off and allow Perry to go through with the ransom. He arrived at the new location, an out-of-the-way neighborhood on the corner of 5th Street and Manhattan Place. There, by a streetlight, was the blue coupe. Hickman covered his face and did his best to deepen his voice as Perry approached the window. The father could see a sawed-off shotgun in his hand. In the seat next to Ed and a bundle of blankets was Perry's little girl. When he asked to see her before he gave the money, Ed reassured him that Marion was only asleep and to hand the cash over. Perry waited as Hickman had instructed. The car pulled up a few feet and, in a flash, dumped Marion out into the street before it sped away. The father rushed to his daughter and cradled her in his arms. She had been butchered. What Perry held was only her hollowed-out torso, stuffed with towels to give it shape. Marion's arms and legs, as well as her organs, were found in a park nearby the next day. To say the city erupted would be putting it lightly. Police were out in force on every street. The news ran the story constantly, and once a reward was posted for what would be over $500,000 adjusted for today, it became the largest manhunt in California history. Hickman would go on to claim another victim, though indirectly. A poor man was beaten and hung in a prison cell just for looking similar to the wanted sketch. One of the towels used to stuff poor Marion Parker's torso provided a key clue. Investigators made out a monogrammed BA on the fabric, which led Los Angeles officers to the Bellevue Arms apartments. There, they found fingerprints and human flesh, but no Hickman. It wouldn't be until a week later that Ed would be spotted in Oregon. A high-speed chase followed that ended with Hickman's arrest and full confession. Hickman claimed to have spent several fun evenings with the little girl. He claimed she had been aware of his intention to ransom her and stated to police that he had been sincere when he told her that he would let her go. Then, on the way out the door one day, he just felt like killing her. He strangled her with a towel, hung her body over the tub, and slit her throat to drain the blood. While she hung there, Ed went down to a nearby corner store and purchased makeup as well as knives and razors. Then he stripped down and did the bloody work of dismembering and disemboweling the girl. Once he was done, he cleaned her torso off and applied makeup to her face. Ed then cut off her eyelids so that her corpse would seem more lifelike. The killer then took a bath in the same tub. Wiliam Hickman was found guilty of both the murders of Clarence Thoms and Marion Parker. He died by hanging on October 19th, 1928. Hey, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed my work and want to show some support, I deeply appreciate it. My books can be found on Amazon. I do have a Patreon as well as a Ko-Fi at R.A.Brewster. You can find me in all the usual places. Links below. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'm out.
I'm so broke. Yeah, I'm so broke. This dollar won't last. I'm in dire need of cash, 'cause I'm so broke. I'm so broke. Yeah, I'm so broke. No food to eat. I'll sell pictures of my feet, 'cause I'm so broke.